Hey, welcome back. So yesterday I showed you how to install macOS Sonoma, and we also set up Xcode beta. And then of course we finally got that Vision Pro simulator up and running. So today I'm going to give you some tips and tricks that I've learned navigating that Vision Pro simulator, because there's a lot of things that they don't necessarily tell you, but it's really cool to know because again, we're trying to develop apps. That's the point of this course. So let's go ahead and just hop right in. Grab your Mac, let's go. In the last video, I showed you how to install macOS Sonoma, and then we also installed Xcode beta, and then we created our app, which we use to open the Vision Pro simulator and just kind of see it for the first time. So in this video, let's go ahead and open Xcode again. And if you don't have Xcode here at the bottom like I do, open your Launchpad. You should see it somewhere in here. And if you don't see it in your Launchpad, that's because you didn't follow my instructions and put it in the right place. So open up the Finder, and again, your Xcode might be in the Downloads folder, so you would just drag and drop it into our Applications folder here. And as long as it's here in the Applications folder, you should see it in the Launchpad. So again, we'll just go ahead and just open up Xcode. And welcome right back to Xcode. Now, yesterday we created our app, which again, we just used to kind of demo things. So let's go ahead and create another new project here, because I do want to teach you the habits and patterns that you'll follow when you're creating your own apps. Again, we'll select visionOS, we'll click app, we'll hit next. We'll give our product a name here at the top. So yesterday we called it our app. Today we'll call it our new app. For your team, this will be your developer account, so just make sure that you have something selected there. Organization identifier, that's the name of like your company or just your development name. So again, this is used for your bundle identifier, which is basically like a barcode for your app. So that's all you really need to know there. Our initial scene, so there's two types of scenes here. There's a window, which is like a traditional window, a 2D screen. And then there's a volume, which would be a 3D screen, a 3D space. So let's go ahead and use volume for this one because we want the most out of our demo app that we're creating today. For our immersive space, there's 4 different options. Again, we'll just go ahead and select full. That way we know that we can open this app in a full space and we have all of the powers and capabilities that we may need in the future. So let's tap next. Again, I would recommend saving your projects somewhere that they will be safe, maybe in the cloud. But for me, I'll just save it on my desktop because I'm going to get rid of this stuff later. Perfect. And that's all you really need to create your first app. So from here, you should see the preview load up. Again, we have some code here in the middle that may look a little intimidating if you've never seen or worked with code before. But don't worry about it. It should all work. It's all there. So there's nothing that you need to do. And then let's go ahead and just hit that play button. So we'll go ahead and just hit play. All right. And as long as you see that hammer say bill succeeded, that's a good sign. You can see right away we have our Apple Vision Pro simulator. It's booting up. It's doing its best. And then again, be aware that this is a beta. So I've noticed that sometimes if I enter full screen, it does glitch out a little bit and it's kind of hard to get out of full screen. And then right now it looks like we had an issue. So simulator device returned an error, blah, 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 blah. Basically, it didn't work. So for whatever reason, our app actually did not launch. This is pretty weird. Did not have this issue before, but it looks like maybe, again, it's a beta. There might be some issue that popped up since we started, but we can still give you a navigation of visionOS in our simulator here. So let's focus on that. I actually will go full screen, and here's that bug I was talking about. So I can't see the full bar. If I do a 4-finger push up here, so I'll do 4 fingers and push up on my trackpad, that just opens up everything. You can also press F3. And if I come back into it, it looks like that does fix that small glitch there. So again, expect bugs. Bugs are normal in a beta. And by the time this thing comes out, definitely all the bugs will be gone. But right now, if you really want to work on the bleeding edge, you have to accept that there will be some bugs here and there. And sometimes you'll just have to figure it out. All right, so now that we've covered bugs, again, ideally your app should have launched. So let's try to launch our app one more time. Here's our new app. We'll just go ahead and click on it, and that should launch our app. And again, you can see that there's some type of issue because it came right back to our home screen, and that's okay. But again, I can see that if the app had launched, it would have launched right here. So this bar here and this exit button, this is our app. You can't really see it, but if we take this and we left click and drag it, you can see I can move that around kind of spatially. And if I tap that exit button, that does close the app and reopen our home screen. So there's the very basics for you. Let's focus on some simulator specific buttons here at the top. So if I tap the home button, that dismisses our home screen. If I tap it again, that brings it right back. If you tap the camera button here, that takes a screenshot. And the rest of these buttons here, I actually have not used these. So capture pointer, capture keyboard, I'm not exactly sure what they do versus just using the simulator with my keyboard and mouse. But if I find out, I'll definitely update this video. And then to the right of that, we have simulated scenes. So if I click simulated scenes here, we can actually change the location of our simulation. So right now we're in the living room during the day, but if I wanted to see the living room at nighttime, there you go. There's our living room at nighttime. And so this is a great way to test out our UI. Again, as we're building different apps, the best and hardest part about augmented reality apps is the fact that they have to react to your user's environment, and you have no idea where your user will open this. So they could be opening their app in the living room during the nighttime, or they could be at a museum during the nighttime, or maybe instead they're in the kitchen during the daytime. But that's what makes this simulator really, really fantastic. Because before this, we really did not have anything that could simulate different environments across different times of day. So kudos to Apple. This was a really good idea. I was literally begging someone from developer relations for this specific feature. So it was really awesome to see the next day that they announced this at DubDub. Let's go ahead and talk about some more buttons here. So we just switched scenes around a few different times. Let's go back to our living room during the daytime. And then there's another button here, which is to reset our camera. And right now, you won't really see any change here. So let's try to move our camera around using some of our controls. And we'll start with this one here. So this one allows us to tilt our camera. So right now, let's actually, before we do that, let's press the home button. And let's just look around here. So let's left click and I will look to the left. Ooh. And then I'll keep holding my left click and we'll drag it over to the right. Ah. So you can start to imagine how, again, we can simulate sitting on this couch in our living room, looking around the room and seeing how our app performs, and of course, moving any windows around if we need to. The next button we have here is our pan. So if I left click and drag, and let's go up this time, we'll go up, whoa, all the way up here, and we can go down, all the way down there. We can pan to the left, which is kind of like walking to the left in a straight line. And we can pan to the right, which is the same thing, but going to the right side. And we can even pan outside of the scene. So definitely, again, you want to stay inside of the room, but it's really cool that we can pan and kind of maybe, see what this looks like from this particular little corner here. I can pan and do this one here and like, wow, look at that over there. That's the basic idea. So now that we've kind of messed up our camera view here, I mean, this is a great looking living room, but let's reset so that we're back on the couch. And then I want to bring your attention back to the very top here because this will never disappear. And it's important to know that this is always going to be in your scene. So this button here, if we go ahead and just left click it, and you'll notice that right now, while I have any of these other tools, I can't really left click that. And wherever I move the camera, that thing still shows up. So that's kind of like our ultimate home button here. It's like the home button for the eyes. And I think it's just, again, another great reminder that you are in a virtual experience. I think as these devices get lighter and lighter and the resolution gets better and better, it will be extremely important for people to remember that, hey, this is an augmented reality. It's not your reality. And I think having this button here at all times is probably a really important design principle to just remind people that, hey, this is almost real. It's not real. All right, so click over here to the pointer button and let's go ahead and just click the drop down. There we go. And so this launches, like I said, kind of like our home section for controlling our Vision Pro device. So if I want it to turn the volume up, I can look and drag. And again, wherever I'm pointing and dragging, that would be a look, click and drag with your finger. This button here opens our home screen again, so that's a really good way to get to home. So again, you can imagine that instead of pressing the physical home button on your head, I mean, again, remember, we don't really want to lift our hand and press on our face. So rather than doing that, you can just look at this button, you'd click with your fingers wherever you're holding your fingers, and then you could click the home button, and that's probably a better way to get to the home screen without physically pressing a button on your face. All right, so let's dismiss our home screen again, and let's focus back in on, people are calling it the control center, but I think technically speaking here, oh, it's asking for permission. Not too sure why, but we'll go ahead and give it permission. And then let's focus in on environments. So environments is a pretty cool feature here. You can change your environment here in the room. So if you want it like a light, we could have like maybe a beach, you could have dark, you could have automatic, and then again, you can change the volume of your environment as well. So I think this will be a pretty cool feature because again, changing your environment is something that you would do to change your workspace. So if you feel like, hey, I really gotta crank out this video edit and I really don't wanna do it here in my room, turn on the beach environment and now you can work at a peaceful beach, getting some stuff done with your spatial computer. Let's keep going and let's open up our menu here one more time, and I'll show you a trick this time. So if you use two fingers and you kind of pinch out like you're trying to make something bigger, so I'll just go ahead and pinch on the trackpad. That actually allows us to zoom in, similar to like if I took a couple steps forward. You know, obviously if I took a few steps forward, it would be easier to see. Same concept here. If you're using a magic mouse, I believe you should be able to pinch on it as well. And if not, you can try maybe like a 2-finger scroll. And then if you're just using a traditional mouse, it'd probably be like a mouse wheel scroll up or down. So same thing there. You're really just trying to kind of pinch in and zoom, and obviously that allows us to get as close as we need or maybe a little bit farther. So let's open that control center here. And if you've used iOS, this should already look pretty familiar to you. But on the left-hand side, and again, let's maybe get a little bit closer. On that left-hand side, we have the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and airplane mode buttons, which won't be working here in the simulator. If we had some content playing, we would see that here in the playing section. And then we even have this cool looking slider for our volume. Just like iOS, we have a do not disturb mode, so you can turn that on or you can turn it off. We also have a guest user mode, and this is pretty cool because it allows you to set up a passcode, and as long as someone puts on the headset within the next 5 minutes, they can actually use your Vision Pro without accessing your photos or your bank account or any of the other apps that you don't want your guest user using. To the right of that, we have our text size. And so again, pretty cool. We can adjust the size of the text across our entire system pretty much on the fly. So this is another great feature that should make it really easy to read whatever's on screen. Next, we have the AirDrop feature. So if I wanted to send and receive files with people around me without taking my headset off, again, AirDrop is built right in. And then last but not least, we have our search here. And so let's try that out. And so our search right away, you'll notice that it does pop up our keyboard. And then what's also cool here is we have our Siri button. And what's different about Siri on the headset is that rather than having to say that magic word, which I won't say right now and set off the millions of devices around me, you can actually just hover over that button with your eyes. And again, it should start up the Siri here. And let's see what I did wrong. Nope, none of those things. So again, it should just work. I did get it to work earlier, but there we go. Okay, so it looks like it's working. It looks like, I guess you need to kind of press and hold maybe, but you can see it is really, really good. Looks like it's transcribing everything that I'm saying in real time with a very low error rate. Cool. I'm having too much fun doing this, so let's go ahead and stop. There you go. But you get the idea. Definitely using Siri should be 10 times easier on Vision Pro than it is traditionally speaking, because you won't even have to say that magic word, which I think now has been reduced to just Siri. So again, easier than ever to use a smart assistant here in spatial computing. We scroll down here, and before we scroll, let's actually just type in something. So let's use our camera. We'll drag down so I can see the rest of our keyboard here. And then I'll switch back to our pointer. Let's type in hello. There we go, really straightforward. And just like Siri normally works, let's look back up here. You can see that it's brought up some search results. It looks like the top hit in the App Store is HelloFresh. If we keep scrolling down here, we have our Siri search suggestions. We have some suggested websites. We have our Siri knowledge, our news, our maps. So again, this is still connected to all of the services that you love and use every day. Cool, so that's the search. I don't think there's too much more to see there. Let's go ahead and go back to our home screen, because I don't think there's anything else I need to show you here. The last thing is our notification center, but of course there's no notifications here. But if we did have some, they would look very pretty right here in our notification center. All right, so let's press the home button, and actually let's press the fancy one here. So let's click, and we will press this button here. And this brings us back into our home screen. So let's go ahead and give you a quick overview of the apps and settings on this home screen. So for starters, you can see that we've already added our first two apps. As we add more and more apps, they should expand horizontally. So if I scroll here, you'll notice that I can actually push some of those apps off the screen. And if I left click and drag to the right side here, I can also push some of those apps off the screen. Wow, you can really push them all almost off the screen. Pretty cool. But once I let it go, they all bounce right back into place. So that's how we would navigate our home screen if we had a ton of apps. There's also this folder here of compatible apps. And so these are different iPad apps that just happen to be compatible with Vision Pro right out of the box. So you can see we have calendar, maps, news, reminders, shortcuts. But again, these are just iPad apps. They're not specially formatted just for Vision Pro, but they do have some cool features that show up here. So we'll take a look at that when we're ready to look at multitasking. Let's take a quick dive into our settings menu here. And so our settings menu will even bring it closer. So I'll hold that bar, and then I'll hold shift, and I'll try to bring it a little bit closer for us here. There we go. Easier to read because we physically brought the window closer. So from the very top, pretty standard stuff. It's Apple Vision Pro, blah, blah, blah. There's not really too much insight here that you can get. One thing that I saw is that our capacity is 494 and available is 162. That might not be the real device specs, but it's still pretty cool to see, like, even our simulator has some limitations. Keyboard. So this is another pretty cool area. Definitely supporting keyboards and different game controllers is a feature right out of the box. And then the rest of these are pretty self-explanatory. So, we have apps in our app settings. We have our people. We have our environments. We have notifications, focus mode, screen time, FaceTime, which is not finished yet. You can see it literally says engineering UI coming soon. So that's always pretty cool to see, like, yeah, they are literally still working on this stuff as we speak. But yeah, this is our settings menu. And of course our search and even our Siri search is all built in here to our settings. Cool. Let's close that. Let's go ahead and close our settings menu here. So again, we can just tap that exit button here, and that closes the window. One thing I forgot to mention in our settings menu, you can actually sign in. So if you would like to sign into your Apple ID, I don't necessarily recommend it because, again, there could always be some type of security bug that's not known in the simulator. But theoretically speaking, I can say that I've done it myself. And yes, you can definitely sign into your Apple ID and see all of your photos. So if you want a more personalized experience in the simulator, you can maybe just try signing in, and again, makes it feel a little bit more personal. But that's our settings menu. So let's close that here. And then let's open one of our compatible apps, or let's open Safari. I think Safari will make a great demo. So with Safari, our web browser, pretty standard stuff. It's the internet. Right now, it looks like mine is going to the page where I left off, which was the Vision Pro website. So pretty cool. We're learning about Vision Pro from our Vision Pro simulator. And then what's really cool here, so our white line, our bar that we use to move things around, of course, we can move this wherever we like, but we can also resize this window. So if I hover my eyes or my pointer here on that corner, I can actually click and drag out, and that should make the window a lot bigger. And I can also click and drag in, and I can make the window a lot smaller. So again, we can make this window just about as big as we need it. And I can still left click and move this wherever I need to put it. And then what's really cool about this, and let's kind of hover over here. What's really cool about this is, as I mentioned, we can multitask. So if I press that home button, and that's a little distracting, so let's scroll up here. There we go, less distracting. All right, so if I press the home button, notice how that window fades into the background and our home screen takes the center. And it's a little hard to see here. Again, this is a simulator. I think the experience actually looking through the headset will be a lot more visually clear and just consistent than what we're getting here in the simulator. But definitely you can see that we have our apps ready to launch. And so if I wanted to maybe open up the settings app at the same time for whatever reason, I can open my settings. And again, I can just left click and drag. And now I have two different windows open at the same time. Look at that, pretty cool. And then what's also really cool, if we were to switch our scenes here, so let's say, you know, I was working in the living room and then I need a snack, so I walk over to the kitchen. Well, for starters, I can see what these scenes look like in the kitchen, but on our real device, what would happen is this would be left in the kitchen, and in the living room, we'd have different apps, different windows that are still open, still fixed exactly where we left them. And again, in our simulator, you can kind of see through walls here. I don't think you would get that effect when wearing the headset. I think when you're wearing the headset, there might be what we call occlusion here. So some content like this that's behind a wall, you'll maybe only see half the screen instead of the full screen. Just something to be aware of. Okay, cool. So we've covered a lot of different stuff here. You know, this simulator video actually went a lot longer than I thought. I didn't mention these last two controls here, so I do want to point them out. This one here is the orbit button. So we've been using the rotate button, which allows us to just kind of look around the room. But there's also this orbit button, which allows us to orbit around like a fixed point. So you can see here, as I left click and drag, we're just kind of going in a circle around where the camera really is. Pretty cool. And then this last one here, this is the dolly. So I can click and drag to move in or out. And this is the same as that pinch and drag that I mentioned earlier. Cool. All right, so yeah, I think I've covered more than enough to get you started here. So we'll close a window here. Oh, gotta, again, click over to that pointer. So we'll close a window here, close a window there. That brings back our home screen. But I think really, you know, you have everything you need to know as far as navigating your little 3D room. So my challenge to you would be maybe just exploring these rooms, like, you know, see what's on the wall, look in the corners, because there are some really cool details that they put in here. I think like in the living room, I'll give you one. In the living room here, one thing I noticed is that this carpet isn't perfectly flush. So right here, you can see there is a crinkle in the carpet. And, you know, I think that's on purpose. That's, again, to demonstrate a realistic environment versus just some perfectly clean, perfectly simple environment. So that's my challenge to you, is try to navigate these rooms using the tools that I've shown you today. And then one more cool thing I'll show you here, just to wrap things up. There's a nice little hover effect that happens for all of our app icons whenever you hover over them. So what you'll notice here is that, like Safari, it's completely flat. Let's zoom in even more. And then the moment we hover over it, it actually pops out a little bit. So that's what all of our icons are doing. You can see settings, it pops out and drops a shadow. files, pops out and drops a shadow, and same thing here. And that's all automatically handled by the system. So really, really cool stuff here. But I hope this video has been great to you. I know it was a little long, but again, I just wanted to cover every single feature that I know about so that you have the knowledge that I have. So look out for the next video. In our next video, we'll definitely actually start designing our first app. So we'll work on some code. Don't worry if you've never coded, I can teach you the absolute basics, and we're gonna scale you up to a fully functioning app that saves data and retrieves data. So I can't wait to show you more. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, see you later.